chaos within the Republican Party has taken up quite a bit of time and energy this week. But don't forget about the Democrats. Yes, they are in the minority for the first time in 4 years, but they also just completed an overhaul of their party's leadership. Now, Democrats are tasked with governing effectively without that coveted majority. So how are they going about it? Joining me now to discuss is Democratic Congresswoman from California, Sara Jacobs. Welcome to you, Congresswoman. Talk to me a little bit about how Democratic leadership is thinking about this current dynamic. Now you have Republicans, the divisions in that caucus. Is that going to present opportunities for you to govern more effectively, windows for you to get some things done, or elevations that you usually would not have if you were in the minority?
Yeah, look, I think what we saw the last 5 days is really a harbinger of what we're going to see from this Republican majority. If it took them this long to get a speaker, how are they going to pass the basic functionings of government, like the debt ceiling, like a government funding bill? And so the way we're thinking about it as Democrats is that we're going to stand up to Republicans where we need to. We're going to stand up for our values. We're going to stand up for our principles. And I never thought I would say this, but thank goodness we have the United States Senate that is so good at blocking everything the House wants to do.
Not the House praising the Senate. Are we in the twilight?
I know, right? But it means that the worst of what they're going to want to do is going to be stopped by the Democratic Senate and by the Democratic White House. And so we're going to let them take those votes. We're going to make them go on the record, and we're going to let the American people see just how extreme they really are.
So I mean, you're going to let them take these votes. So, for example, the debt ceiling. There were a number of extremist members of the Republican caucus, because they're not even conservatives. Some of these folks are extremists who are saying this, about saying we're going to shut down the government over the debt ceiling. But that's not what happens if the Congress does not vote to raise the debt ceiling. America defaults on its credit, and then we lose our good credit rating, and all the bonds of the Treasury, they no longer mean anything to all these companies, and catastrophe.
That's right. So when we need to stand up to them for our principles, when we know the Senate and the White House are going to be stopping it, we're going to let them take those votes. But for the basic functionings of government, for the debt ceiling, for government funding, for the things that are going to impact people's lives if the House is not able to get something done, we're going to find ways to work with them. And, I actually think part of the concessions Kevin McCarthy made to his far-right extreme actually could help us in this way.
Which concession?
So, for instance, the discharge petition. So they've changed the rules on the discharge petition, which means that anyone can get enough signatures to bring a bill, and it has to be voted on the floor, which means we only need an additional 6 Republicans to vote with us to get a discharge petition to come to the floor. For instance, some of the rules they're doing around amendments to bills that have to come to the floor. Again, this means that we only need to get 6 Republicans to vote with us on the floor to get an amendment passed to a bill to change what it says.
And there are a lot of Republicans who were elected in what would be called swing districts, purple districts, who are in this new Congress that could potentially be willing to work with you all. I've heard rumblings of this throughout. For folks who don't know, you are one of the co-chairs of the Policy and Steering Committee in leadership, or in the Democratic caucus, right? You're on the steering committee. You play a role in deciding what policy, what Democrats are pushing. Any reshuffling in response to what people are going on these various committees from the Democratic point of view, given the reported concessions that Speaker McCarthy made?
Yeah, so, our leader, Hakeem Jeffries, has appointed the people to the Steering and Policy Committee. I was elected by the 5 most junior classes to represent them in the leadership table and on the Steering and Policy Committee. I think we have always known that the Republicans are going to use their power to not look out for the American people, but to do bogus investigations of the Biden administration to try and pass extreme policy. And so we've been preparing for this. So we have the right people.
You have the right people on these.
Right.
Okay, all right. We'll be watching. Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, thank you very much for coming in today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.